Well, hello and welcome to a new video where we're going to test the performance of Apex Legends on the Lenovo ThinkPad T480 again. And this is the same 1080p and basically low settings again, but I just limited the CPU to the base clock speeds in the hopes that we will not see the kind of insane throttling that we saw in the last game. So yeah, I'm really curious to find out if we can play actually through one entire game without this machine throttling itself to death. And as you can see, we're not sitting around the 20 to 30 FPS, but the 50 FPS mark right now. So let's just hope that we can keep up these settings or these wattages, even though we're at the kind of same 10 watts that we were before. But yeah, 2 gigahertz or around the 2 gigahertz mark should basically be enough, I hope, in this game for the MX 150 to reach most of its potential at least. So let's see if this holds true. Anyway, in the ship, we can see that our CPU is definitely at a very high usage right now. But as long as we can see the 1.9 gigahertz here, I'm actually quite happy. Yeah, even 60 FPS when just looking in the sky, looking at nothing. Alright, yeah, this seems much more playable than the last game I've played. So maybe the base clock speeds is enough, and maybe that is the way to go, I guess, in this game, at least for this machine here. Yeah, I mean, I guess the MX 150 may even be capable to get higher FPS than what we're gonna see now, but I guess we won't find out in this machine. Because yeah, if you haven't seen the last video, there I played the game and it actually throttles so hard that it was only running at around 700 to 800 megahertz on the i7 CPU. Because in this T480 we have an i7 quad-core CPU as well as 16 gigabytes of memory, but both of that is basically irrelevant as soon as it throttles as hard as it did in the last game. And that was pretty insane. So I was hoping that with reducing the clock speeds to the base core clock speeds, that we will see maybe a consistent behavior, even though we're not seeing the maximum performance behavior here. So I'm just gonna go and spectate these guys for a little more to see if we actually will drop eventually, or if it actually is able to keep up with these clock speeds at least. Because we are in the temperature limit already, and 70 degrees is around the temperature mark which this Lenovo T480 wants to be at with the GPU as well as the CPU. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to find out if that holds true. And I mean, Apex Legends, even though it is obviously for older machines not the easiest game to run, it is not that CPU intensive usually. I mean, when I have tested like something like the Dell XPS from 2018, the 15-inch version with the Nvidia 1050 Ti as well as a 6-core i7-8750H, the machine had basically the same throttling problems that this one here has, where the CPU would throttle down to 1 gigahertz or even lower, so making the game completely unplayable. But Apex Legends was fairly easy to get under control due to the fact that it usually wasn't stressing the system all that much. But I guess the 1050 Ti as well as the 8-core i7 are way more capable than this little guy is, and this GPU as well as CPU are. So yeah, I don't even want to think about how Battlefield will play out, because something like Battlefield 1 or 5 will be way more intensive and stressing for the CPU as well as the GPU at the same time. So I guess in that case, you will basically always get the throttling issues that we are seeing here. Or not seeing here right now, which is great, but which we saw in the last game. So yeah, quite interesting to me that we're still at around the 10 watts marks, but this time it's able to actually hold playable clock speeds on the CPU. And I mean, we're still only seeing around the 30 FPS though, so I guess this game still isn't competitively playable. And I mean, it's basically only a competitive online game, so is it really that enjoyable? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's about what you expect your T480 to be able to run, and if you're really playing on a high level, then I guess you won't be playing this on a T480. But if you just wanna play this on the go, I guess the 30 FPS or the around 30 FPS should be good enough for a round or two. And I mean, this is at 1080p. You could go down to 720p, which I wouldn't really recommend because a lot of the distant objects like enemies will become a pixelated mess, and you won't really be able to hit anything then. And that obviously does kind of suck and gives you an unfair disadvantage. And we do see that our CPU clock speeds are throttling down from the 1.9 gigahertz to 1.6 gigahertz right now, so we are still seeing this throttling, even though it is not as aggressive right now, which probably it will become in the later stages of this video. Yeah, I mean, that really sucks because the MX 150 probably would even be able to deliver more FPS right now if it wasn't for the super throttled down CPU in the system. Yeah, 1.5 gigahertz. And yeah, I mean, the last game we saw it dropping down to, I think, 700 megahertz, so very, very low, which really makes the CPU completely useless. And yeah, we're not even around the 10 watts anymore. So yeah, I guess even if you are lowering everything and restricting your CPU, and keep in mind this one is also already undervolted. I think it's negative 90 millivolts on the core and cache, so already a pretty high undervolt here. And yeah, I guess you still can't get this CPU throttling under control then. So yeah, nevertheless, it is still going to throttle, and it's still not going to be a very enjoyable experience, because if it keeps throttling and will throttle to 5 watts eventually, I guess we're still at 1 gigahertz only, then you basically are out of options to play this game because you can't lower the resolution anymore, you can't do anything because the CPU will always hold your system back. And in the last game, it definitely became unplayable at some point. So yeah, I would absolutely not recommend, I guess, playing Apex Legends on a T480, even though some other games that I have tested so far, like Counter-Strike 2, ran pretty flawlessly. But yeah, I guess this one just is too heavy for this machine to run.